What's happening? What's happening, everybody? This is Daren from Wisdom Warriors, the channel, and this is Yohan from Yohan's Odyssey. Back at it for
How's it
another
going?
collab. Oh yeah, back at it for
How's it
another
going? Yeah, hope
collaboration.
you're all doing well.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I hope you guys are all doing well. We're here for the second installment of this wonderful podcast, and yeah, we've got a few very interesting things to talk about today. Hope you enjoy.
Hope you enjoy, man. Back at it. We're doing another amazing collab, and here we go, man. Uh, we were having a little bit of a conversation pretty much before we came on here, and it felt like a really good place to start. If you want to start off, you know, um, a little bit kind of explaining, maybe a little bit briefly of some of the things that you experienced during awakening, because a lot of just to give a brief, like a lot of people go through multiple awakenings. I feel like I've gone through many from a child, but we can throughout our life we can get pulled back in and back asleep. It's just natural depending on what path you're taking. So if you want to go ahead and maybe give like a briefing of and just to add one other thing, like if you don't know what it is, which I'm sure you do if you're watching this video and in our channels, you probably experienced an awakening, but it's just awaking up to like things that aren't right. And you just start, you're like, how was I doing this? Why was I doing this? Why did I buy all this garbage like that I never needed? How did I end up living where I'm living? Like I experienced a lot of that. I don't know about you, but I experienced a lot of that, finding out years later when I had different awakenings, like all this crap that I used to buy and just spend money aimlessly on garbage that I never even used. That's for one thing that you wake up and you realize, or maybe you're in a relationship that now you woke up and you're like, oh my God, like, what am I doing in this relationship? Like, I don't align with this person whatsoever. And these are just some of the things that I think happen to a lot of people as I've seen in my own experience and in other people's. And what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start with my whole process of awakening, and yeah, it definitely was a multifaceted process where there wasn't one specific moment where I would say, oh, that's it, I woke up. It was, in some parts of it would definitely start at a young age. Like I always struggled to, yeah, fit in wherever I was when I was young. And like I really struggled big time at school. And like from a young age, I always tended to question things that, people around me, especially teachers, didn't tend to like me asking those questions. Like things like just basically, why things are the way they are. And yeah, it's just really things that most people wouldn't even really consider. And yeah, and with awakening, like I found like when I was asking certain questions, when I couldn't really find answers, like it just led to more and more, just anger and frustration. And then I sort of
Yeah.
forgot about it for a while. So yeah, it definitely was like, yeah, a multi-staged process where it's like essentially you wake up once and then you sort of like it might peter out a little bit, and then suddenly something else will happen, whether it be in the internal or the external world, and then suddenly, your whole understanding of the world just gets flipped over on its head, basically.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, from a young age, I guess it started off slowly, just, I started questioning more and more things about why things were the way they are. Like a big thing that perplexed me, since I was young, was everyone's obsession with money.
Yeah.
And I never really understood, like, what is money? Like, why is everyone going after this thing called money? It's like initially you see money, as a young child, you think, oh yeah, that's just pieces of paper, or here in Australia we have plastic, basically. Um,
Mm.
but of course, the more as you grow older, you understand that money is more than just, like a banknote, basically. And one thing that really boggled my mind was like, why does money have so much value? Like, why do people hand over these small banknotes that essentially don't have much, like on a physical level, they don't have much value at all. Like you'll give them over to people in order to be able to, you exchange that, and then you'll get back, like, food or essentials that you need to survive. And like it makes sense. You need certain things like food, shelter, clothing for survival. But it always boggled my mind, like, where does money come from? Who decides, like who decides it, and what is it? I asked all these questions about, and it's like I never tended to get a straight answer. So, I sort of forgot about it. And yeah, then as the years went on, it's, more and more things happen in the world. I think with awakening, it's like it really just happens when you have it tends to happen when you have a curious mindset, where you're just curious and you want to understand the world around you. That's really, I think, how the process of awakening
Well,
starts.
well,
You have
well,
a
some people wake up in a very, it happens in a very traumatic experience. Like they're meant to wake up, but they keep resisting it. And then they go through a severe, like either a health crisis or somebody dies or something like that. And that they could have been waking up slowly, like you're saying, but then a forced awakening a lot of times comes because they're resisting it, you know what I mean? And then you go through, because I think that's what happened to me a few times. I was waking up like you were very small, and then I had the deaths or health hitting rock bottom, um, that really forced an awakening, a deeper awakening. You know what I mean? So some people are resistant to it too, and then they have to go through a forced awakening. Where they just are like not going down the right path. And so yeah, I think it definitely varies, but I do believe, like
yeah.
you said, you have to be like a curious questioning, which I did too, just like you. Like even with, I questioned how is the sun like rising and falling in the clouds and in the sky, just things like that normal people are just going around work, like you said, with money or 9 to 5, and they're just in that rut, that hamster wheel, and they're just, like, I just work and eat dinner and go to bed and pay taxes and die, type of thing. I think that too wakes people up when it gets to they get in that rut forever, and they're finally,
Mm,
well, what the hell am I doing, man? So I think it varies a little bit, but if you're meant to wake up, I think
yeah.
you're going to wake up regardless. You're going to be forced into an awakening too. There's
Mm.
forced ones too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a multi-stage process, and like yeah, just sort of getting back to sort of my own awakening. Like, yeah, it started off sort of slow, just having a curious mindset, and it's like small steps. But I also then experienced 3 years ago. It's like 3 years ago now. That's when I guess I had the first massive jolt in my life. And I think that's when a lot of people had a big jolt, the events that started 3 years ago with
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's things that you can't really talk about that much on this platform
yeah.
with censorship and all of that. But, certain events regarding a certain, Mexican beer plague that went around. That's sort of my code. That's my code word for
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That I like to
That's a good
use.
one. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that woke a lot of people up, man. I think
A
that
lot
was the
of
biggest
people.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that changed
Yeah.
the world, the earth in general. We're never going back to the way it was before then, before 3 years ago. There's no way. I mean, people want it back that way, but it's not. This is like the Great Awakening, man, and it cannot be stopped. And thousands of people are. That's why this is so beautiful what we're doing, because I feel like people are confused, man. Like when I woke up, one of the major wake ups I had in 2017, there was nothing out there, man. And nobody knew damn thing what they're like, oh, just go on medication. Like no one knew I was losing my mind, man, because I was going through a lot of other things too. It was a lot of health shit. I'll talk about it, but continue. I don't want to, cut you off or anything.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a multifaceted process of awakening. So like starting off very sort of slow, and yeah, then those events, those set of events was essentially the big thing that suddenly it's like so many things then like made sense. It like with the curious mindset and with awakening happening slowly, you sort of get things fed to you slowly, but it's like then when these big shifts happen, when these big awakenings happen, it's like that's when things really come together. Like when all those events happen, that's when more and more things started clicking, and I was like, wait, so that's how it was. And it's like my whole view of the world was essentially just turned upside down. And it's like, yeah, when that happens, it can be very, very traumatic. Like I remember, the first, year when all of that was happening, and I was like, well, what that? Like I remember I was like in this state almost of just confusion. I was like,
I
what
was
the
gonna say,
hell
yeah,
is going on? Like
yeah,
what is this?
yeah,
And like, I mean, for some people, it could probably be so, traumatic that they just want to go back and cling to what's familiar. And I know I've wanted to do that at times, essentially, take the blue pill, but it's like I never could do that for long. Like I could sort of pretend that, I didn't know anything or blah, blah, blah for a while, but eventually I always found myself coming back and reaching a new level of awareness. So it's like, yeah, just small step by step processes. And yeah, that big shift that happened that really woke me up.
mm,
I found that it sort of got, you know, like when it happened, it's like I hated it, I hated what was going on and all of that. And, I don't want to try to diminish, just the craziness of everything that happened. But it's like, as I go on, in some ways, I find myself actually being almost grateful for it, because it's like I feel like I wouldn't be in this position. I know I wouldn't be in this position that I am now if none of that would have happened. So I definitely think that it was something that was meant to happen, not to,
100%,
diminish
man,
people,
yeah.
not to diminish anyone's experience with it. It's like like it doesn't make it all right, many things that happen, but like still, I think life is not always easy. Life is very much, growth and evolution. It doesn't come easy. It involves a lot of, hard work, discipline, and faith. Just having faith that you're on the right path, and yeah, realizing that there's many things that are, outside of your
Your
control.
control,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's
It's growth though. You can't avoid pain, man, and we've been taught to avoid it, like, and run from it. Like I don't, and we're living in a society that you just pop a pill to get rid of the pain. You know what I mean? And like that pain is like trying to show you something. It's trying to teach you something, but we don't listen. We ignore it, and then it gets worse, and then it gets louder, and then we experience worse health issues. And that's what I've been seeing though. A lot of people is that are on the spiritual journey. It took a health crisis to get them there. And I'm noticing more and more that's what's happening to a lot of people, because I feel like a lot of people have been, including myself, um, resistant to change. And like you spoke about on your channel, and I did about, like I did for the sermon on Sunday, no guarantees, and everything's temporary. You know what I mean? Like we've been conditioned to believe that um, we're here, or feel like we're here forever. You know what I mean? Like, and like these things. Oh, if I have a job, it's stable, and that paycheck is stable, and it creates safety and all that kind of stuff. And in actuality, it's not. It's an illusion. And but yet, and then so then we are not prepared to handle like what happened 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, and kind of, and I feel like that's what a lot of us, like you and me and people that are awakening, are being, our bodies are upgrading. We're being prepared for what's next. And that's really what it is. Like what you just said about growth and evolution. You're just being prepared for what's next. Like you have to go through those situations. Like I tell me that you don't feel like with the experience, the things that, and not to diminish it either, you know, because everybody went through tough stuff. I lost my dad last year, you know. But all these situations made us stronger.
Hmm.
And like, you know, you can't tell me that you're not stronger from going through that situation that we all did in 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, you're more in your power, probably. You're more, you know, your value more, probably. You know, your worth more. At least I do. I know that for me, you know. So yeah, a lot of these situations and the awakening process is, I think it happens in stages, because I feel like if it all happened at once, we'd lose our damn mind. And I think I literally did in 2017 and 2020. I was losing it, man. Like I said, I haven't really fully talked about a lot of it, and I'm probably not going to do it on this video, but maybe another one, or maybe we'll break it up or something like that. But I went through it, man. Let me tell you, I was down bad, mentally, physically, spiritually, like bad. But then we come onto the other side and we're here. We're like helping and sharing, and that's really what we're here to do, man. I feel like same with you. That's why we connected, man. And you know, and that kind of comes full circle with, you know, it's not an easy process, because you lose people in your life, like you've been talking about, you know, and I think you spoke about it on the last video we did, or on other ones that you did on your channel. But you know, like me, I've lost a lot of people in my life, and I know you've spoke about it. And you know, you just don't align with them anymore. They don't understand you, you don't understand them anymore. It's like things that they do don't make sense anymore. It's like I said, you probably lose your relationship. You know, a lot of people that are awakened, they don't even know why they're even in the relationship they're in. I mean, it's just like you start doing things that totally different than what you did before. You know, everything I question, dude. I walk around and I'm like, why are people like we were talking about this before. Why are people like spraying chemicals inside their house to get rid of bugs? You know what I mean? Like I'm like thinking to myself, those people, and not to like to offend anybody if they are a pest control person. I don't want to offend nobody, you know, that's your decision, your choice, you know, your life. But I'm just giving you my perception and my what I feel when you awaken. Like I see them out there and I'm like, they got to be not awake, dude. There's no way. Like, how could you do that? You're killing the people in there and you're killing the bugs. It's like, you know, and it's just like out in nature, like we were talking about prior, like that's inside of us, and yet they're spraying the grass with weed killer that kills us and the freaking environment. It doesn't make sense to me. But when you're unconscious, you don't care. You know, just like it was funny, man. You were doing, well, not funny. I don't want to say funny, but I say it because I feel like if you're unconscious, you wouldn't care. Like when you were doing that video the other day, and you were walking the dog, and you picked up a can, you smashed the can and put it in your pocket.
Yeah.
And then there was another one, and I'm thinking to myself, if you're unconscious, you're not going to care about that.
Yeah.
You're not going to give a shit about what's in the what trash is around, and you know, like you're just not going to care.
Yeah. I think like with the whole process of awakening, it really just ties into just being conscious and aware of, you know, like who you are, you know, your place in this world, and just paying attention to, you know, your surroundings, and just being connected with nature. It's like, you know, like
Yeah,
I've always felt a strong connection to nature. It's like I don't like to see, you know, nature essentially you know, polluted with all these different, you know, especially, you know, like rubbish, because it's like something you go outside, you can just see it, it's in your face. It's like, and I just hate to see it. So I've always just liked to go and just, you know, pick it up and just, you know, dispose of it properly. And it's like, you know, it's really something that pisses me off sometimes. It like really makes me very angry to sort of see it, because it's like, you know, like, so like I haven't mentioned this, but it's like, you know, I'm half Sri Lankan, and you know, I've been to Sri Lanka a few times. You know, it's a third world country, and I've been to a few third world countries, and it's like, you know, over there, you know, you see a lot more rubbish lying around, but it's like they don't have, you know, the same services that we would have here with, you know, like rubbish disposal. And it's like, here in Australia, and it's probably the same. It's the same in the US. You've
Yeah,
got,
yeah.
rubbish disposal. People come around. They'll collect your rubbish, and you have bins that you put it in, and it's like, in a country like Sri Lanka, it's like, I mean, it's probably changed. It's probably changed a lot since the last time I've been there, but like, I was at my, grandmother's house there, and it's like they chuck all the rubbish in the center of the backyard and essentially, burn it in a pile, and that's because there's no disposal there. It's like otherwise
Mm.
it'll just end up
Wow.
in the otherwise it'll end up in all the rivers and it'll pollute all that, which is their drinking water. So it's like, you can't take any of this for granted. It's like people around the world, they won't be able to just, throw away their rubbish and, dispose of it properly. So that's really why it just makes me angry to see when it's like there's a bin is down the road. Just yeah,
I think it's more than that though, man,
yeah,
because what we were talking about earlier before we got on here and
mm,
recorded about how nature is our internal, and it's being mirrored out, right? So the reason you're seeing garbage and stuff like that, or rubbish, whatever you want to call it, um, people don't care about their temple, their body. So you're still seeing it. If everyone in the whole collective cared about their temple and their body, you probably wouldn't see it out there. You know what I mean? So it's like mirroring how some people think about their body, and you or your temple, some people call it their temple. It's like you care about it. So that's why it shows how much you care about it in nature, because nature is a reflection of your internal. Like I said, it's nature is the inside, and your house that you're in right now is outside. So it's interesting when you look at it that way too, and you see people that hoard and their garage is filled to the top and you can't even move inside there and stuff like that, and you just think that's their outside, and then nature's inside, and yet people are throwing trash on the street. It shows how they don't care about their inside, and it shows anyway with some of the foods people put in their body, how they abuse their body. You know what I mean? So until that completely changes, which I believe as you awaken, you begin to care more about your temple and your body. I mean, at least I do. I'm sure you do too, because you talk a lot about it on your channel. So um, I mean, I know I do more than I did 10 years ago. That's for sure. I didn't care then. Now I care. I want to take care of this vessel that I have, this body, because it's getting me around, and like it's all I have in this existence, you know. So I think that's why. And when you're unconscious and you're not awake, you don't care. You're gonna throw shit out your window. You're gonna. We have the same thing like you, but then you know what else we have? They a lot in the city areas. They bring people from prison, and they're on the highways cleaning up all the garbage on the side of the road and the highways. So they make them do it, I guess, as volunteer work or
mm,
whatever like that. I don't know, but I've seen them, and then yeah, we have garbage services and stuff like that, but people still throw trash all over the place.
yeah.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you that they don't care about their own body, or themselves. And they're probably not awake. They're probably unconscious to it, you know, like we were talking about conscious and unconscious, and awakened. Do you feel like your entire life you cared about that, or was it just in the times when you were awake to it?
I think like, I did tend to always, especially when it comes to, nature and like stuff like that, I always tended to care about it. But, there were periods of my life where I sort of, I guess essentially like, forgot about all of that. You have times in your life where you get caught up with essentially living in the matrix and
Yeah,
just,
yeah, you
all
go
your
back to
day-to-day
sleep.
lives. And
Yeah.
it's like you go back to sleep and it's like you just become frustrated and angry with life. I have had times where it's like I just I felt like I couldn't be bothered. I didn't care. And so I definitely had
Yeah.
times where I was like that. So
So yeah, then that's exactly it. There's a lot of those people that are still unconscious to the environment, to animals to nature to everything. They just don't care. They don't want to be bothered with it. They don't care. And when you awaken, you start to realize like every little thing you do impacts something. Like even if you just have an argument at a grocery store with somebody, you're impacting a ton of people, because not just you and that person, whoever's around watching, observing, like it becomes a domino effect. I started to think about that. I'm like, okay, so if I get into an argument with somebody in a line at the grocery store, and there's a line, now what is going to happen to all those people that are watching and observing that? They're probably going to have a bad day and they're going to leave. One of them's going to go to work, maybe be disgruntled with their manager and get fired because of that argument that I had. They could be mad and it could trigger them and they could go to work and piss off their boss and get fired, right? It becomes such a domino effect. You don't realize how many people you're actually impacting by just stepping out your door and reacting in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's like it's mind-blowing how we can really impact a large amount of people. I realized in reading that book, I just wanted to mention this, and then you can continue if you want. That book that I told you about in the last one, The Map of Consciousness, he speaks about counterbalancing. If you hit the love frequency, which is 500, right? Or the love vibration, which is 500, which he says most people vibrate around 200 or 250. But if you get to 500, which we fluctuate from, which is the love vibration, you can counterbalance. One person at 500 could counterbalance 750,000 people that are negative. So you could be positive in a love vibration and counterbalancing 750,000 people that you don't even interact with that are negative. I mean, that's insane, man, how much of an impact we have. So that's why it's so pertinent to be awake, like conscious of what you're doing on a daily basis, because you really do impact masses. You could really shift the planet or the earth, you know, like really massively. The more people that are, you know, in those frequencies or vibrations, but that's a whole nother topic, you know, like, but yeah, it's kind of ties in with the awakening and stuff like that. I just felt like throwing it in there, but
yeah, it's like it really just shows you, like just it's all all these little things, that events that might happen in our life that at the time it might not seem very significant, like whether it's as simple as picking up rubbish or just doing something kind for someone or something
yeah,
like that. It's like things like that. When you're in the moment, you think, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just like in the case of rubbish, oh, I'm just picking up one piece of rubbish to clean up nature, or in the case of doing something kind for someone, oh, I'm just helping this one person. But it's like by helping that one person, you'll help raise their vibration, and then they'll be in a more positive state, and they might go and help someone and do the same thing. So like you said, it's a domino effect. So it's
yeah,
everything that we do. It's like the process of awakening just makes us more aware of just how really, in a sense, how powerful each of us is, because it's like you're not just about us as individuals, but it's like all our actions on the individual level then will affect the whole essentially all of humanity, collective consciousness.
100%, man. You're so right. And it's just like we were talking about also with the nature and everything, and with self-sustainability and everything. And the more that we break away from these addictive things, or things that are currently run in a non-healthy way, the more we're going to change the earth and the way we're living, and I'm seeing it more and more, like you've talked about on your channel, and I don't know, I may have talked briefly about it, but about self-sustainability and like disconnecting from these kind of unhealthy ways of being, and taking our power back, which is like growing your own foods and eating more non-processed, and the processed foods alone is impacting the planet is impacting the planet big time, and we don't even realize how it indirectly affects animals, and they get hurt and killed, and not for the meat part, but just in processing maybe some kind of cereal that has nothing to do with meat, but how the animals still get impacted. And we don't realize, like, these big manufacturers and things like that, how they're really doing disjustice to the earth and our way of living. And I feel like as you awaken more and more, it opens your eyes to all of this, and you're like, man, I don't want to be doing that anymore. And then supply and demand, right? So the less people that do it, and the more people that go to the better way, they're going to have to either change it or dismantle it. That's how we can change the earth even faster, and that's why this awakening process is so important. And it's like somebody like me and you who have been awakened for so long and so many times, it's like I want it to be over, and I'm like, come on, man, let's get to the other side already. It's like,
Yeah.
let's get to the harmony and peace, man, and where we're all helping each other, and we're like you said, one person is good at doing this and another person's good at doing that, and like you're actually doing your purpose. Like maybe somebody really, really loves woodworking and making like things like that, so they're doing it not for the money, but they're doing it for the community, for like, and then you do, maybe you're really good at gardening, and then you do that, but not for the money, but because you enjoy it and it's your passion. I'm not saying you, but you know what I mean, like a generalized thing.
Yeah.
And then you're just giving back that way, and we're building this, like, where everybody's helping each other, versus the way we live now, where everybody just tries to build this massive wealth empire for themselves. And just like, it's all for them. Let me get all the things I can get: 10 cars, 5 houses, my bank account overflowing with money, and like tons of garbage that I'm never going to use, just all for me, that when I transition on, I'm not even going to be able to take it with me anywhere anymore. It's like, it makes no sense to me, man.
Yeah, it's just this hyper consumerist like mindset that big corporations and the powers that be want to condition us to stay in, where you're constantly you constantly just want to gather more material wealth, go and buy this, go and buy that, get a fancier car, get a bigger house, because it's like it perpetuates the lack mindset, where nothing is ever good enough, where you constantly want more. And like I found that since hitting this, essentially this last big awakening, where like things really hit home, things really started to connect. I don't know, I mean, it's different for everyone. Like my experience will be different to yours, and those everyone else watching. But like, have you found that, like, since the last big awakening, your mindset has shifted? Like mine's, I mean, it always shifts, but like I found my mindset has shifted in that, like, every little awakening, like my awareness grew more and more. But I feel like in the last year, especially, I sort of instead of focusing, a lot as much on, problems, because, we clearly discussed a lot of problems exist. Like I found that my mindset shifted more in terms of, trying to find solutions. Have you found that?
100%. I mean, yeah, totally. And solutions, and I think creating, like we're doing, like we're co-creating this, like more creativity, like, and we're creating things out of the same that have already been existing, but into new ways, like what we were talking about with the community things, and coming together, and like, yeah, I mean, 100%, because I don't think I was thinking like that before that.
Because I
Now I
feel
told,
like
yeah, go ahead, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, you can finish. So.
Yeah, I think that the last one, 100%, it drove me even further down the path of, what do I need all this stuff for that's sitting in containers in my garage, that I started donating and going through and getting rid of. I'm like, I never even used any of it. It just sat there for years and years, stacks and stacks of shit that I bought. and just realizing, like you said, just when is the ceiling, when do you reach the top of the ceiling? Like people are just like, I need to keep getting more and more and more, but when do you reach the top? Like when is enough enough? And growing up in South Florida, man, it was really, really hard with that, because everything is based on what you have, and that's how you are viewed. Like, I mean, the homes there, some of the homes could be worth like 30, 40 million, literally in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. Like you got places worth 40, 50, 60 million, size of a football field. I went to jobs at people's houses and they were the size of a football field. If I mean, that's pretty damn big. What do you need
Mm.
that for? You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I grew up around. And people would judge you on how you look externally by your physicality. And then I started to mirror that. I started to I'm like, oh, I got to get jacked up at the gym, and I started lifting weights and building muscle. And I use that to get women versus like my internal, because I lacked the confidence internally. So I was using my external for that, but it was all about that and what you had. And 2020, I think really that was another milestone of like, I don't need all this stuff, man. Like, and what am I doing this for? Like, what is the point? Yeah, I understand. I want to be taken care of. I want to, which I'm sure all of us do, make sure our bills are paid and things like that. But I don't need all this excessive, I really believe that we weren't meant to come here and have all that for
Mm.
ourselves, because I believe that we came here to create communities and help each other. Or we would or I thought about it, or we would live here by ourselves alone. Yes, it's an illusion that you're really not sitting there and I'm not really sitting here for you. It's like kind of an illusion, the way they talk about it in duality and stuff like that, which will be another topic. But the fact of the matter is, man, is like, we're here to assist each other in this journey. And we've gotten to the point with so much divide, man, and it blows. It sucks. It really, it hurts your soul, at least when you awaken. I mean, do you feel the same, like, in some ways?
Yeah, definitely. Like just when you realize, this the true scope and depth of just how the whole scope of all these problems, and also just like all this trauma comes up, and all the pain from the past. It's like it's really, really hard. Like when you actually become aware of that, and when you really, sit with it. So I think like just the whole process of becoming more aware. It's like I think you reach a certain point, and then that's when it's like a tipping point where it's like, all right, now it's time to really focus on, what actions can we take? What are the solutions here? And
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
I found myself thinking a lot about, just the way we live in, society. Like I moved last year, I moved from the city I grew up in, like 3 hours west out to the rural Queensland countryside. And yeah, I mean, it's a completely different, lifestyle out here. And not a lot of people, especially my age, would want to, leave all the luxury and comforts of the, city to come out to a more rural area. But I'm really glad that I did, because I feel like it really helped give me a new perspective on in terms of how I think that we should live, like what you were just saying before about, like communes. Like if you look at just human history, like for most of human history before pre-industrial revolution, most people didn't tend to live in these massive conglomerations of like big cities, or where people are all just, squished together in all these tight spaces. It's like,
Yeah.
people might have lived in, villages or small towns. And I think that's more definitely more how humans are meant to live, where it's like, where neighbors know each other, where you can have a local community that interacts with each other, and especially I think the way forward is really just to have more more self-sustained, smaller and more self-sustained communities, especially with focus on, yeah, I mean, everyone should be encouraged to, follow their passions and do what they enjoy. And, focus can be placed on, things like your self-sufficiency, especially when it comes to, food, like gardening. Like over the last year, I've gotten much more into that, and I've showed a few things on my channel. I haven't, not too much yet, but I've got big plans, especially once, this winter is over. I've got big plans of, getting out in the garden more and really doing some work on that. And yeah, I mean, I've learned, like, before, back in the city, I would never really do much, gardening or anything like that. Like, I always like to go out hiking, but like, and plus, in terms of work out here, I've done a lot of, odd farm jobs here and there. And yeah, it's been a great experience in terms of, sort of opening my eyes, learning how things work. Like, it's just, when you live and grow up in a big city, you don't know where, all these things come from, especially when it comes to food. You go to a supermarket, you just buy what you need, and it's like not much thought might be in terms of, where it comes from. And like, there's so much, especially nowadays, that they don't teach in, the education
Oh,
system
hell
about this
no,
stuff.
man.
Like,
No.
like this is just a little bit of a funny story. So yeah, once there was this one woman that my mum knew came out here for the day. And yeah, we were sort of taking her around a bit. And yeah, there was a field of wheat on the side of the road. And she sort of pointed at that and asked, "Oh, what's that growing there?" And yeah, my mom was like, "Oh, that's wheat." And she's like, "Oh, what's that used for?"
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like,
That's
for example,
that.
she was a kindergarten teacher.
Wow. So
So
that
it's like,
just goes to show you, right? I mean,
that's just an example. So like, what she like what's I mean, I'm not attacking her character, but it's like,
no, no, no.
what's she teaching these kids? It's like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, so like with the education system, like, I mean, it starts young. And it's like they don't teach so many of these things, like things like, where food comes from, and just
Oh, hell no.
really important things like that. Whereas like, especially going back to pre-industrial society, it's like, I mean, you had to know all this stuff. It's
They teach you the stupidest stuff and that you're never going to use. And it's like they should be teaching you yoga and meditation and how to emotionally regulate your emotions. And if they did all of that, man, forget it. Humanity would be, I mean, we'd be in such a different place. You know what I mean? But like they teach you to be weak, I feel like, because if you did meditation and yoga and emotional regulation and you learned how to sustain yourself, you wouldn't be weak. A lot of these kids wouldn't be leaning to porn and all these things and getting in these massive addictions. They would be in such their power and know their worth and their value. But I know for a fact I came out with no self-esteem. I was bullied massively and I had no self-esteem or any of that for most of my life. And I felt like I was weak-minded and everything. And I saw that with so many kids coming out of the school system, you know? And so it's like you're not empowered, which you should be. And it's not. And then this whole lifestyle that we've created is just falling apart. It's not working. It doesn't work anymore. It's crumbling. That's why it's crumbling, I feel like, anyways, because we can't sustain ourselves anymore the way we're living. Like everybody is just self-centered and they just are out for themselves, you know, and like, let me just get the most wealth I can get for myself. You know what I mean? And live in this house, in this house, what I call a house, you know, and there's no happiness, man. That's not true happiness. And people are doing jobs that they don't like. They don't even want to be there. They're miserable, but they're doing it anyway just because they get a paycheck. I mean, I mean, when you're awake, man, we're here to experience this life, man. It is so magical, man. But we've been like become so screwed up with what they've taught us that like what we're here for, make money, pay taxes and die. That's it. That's what I grew up learning. You go to work, you come home, you eat dinner, you go to sleep, you do it all over again the next day. Like that is not life to me, man. What did I come here and incarnate for that? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like I didn't come here for that, man. That's not enjoyable to me. That
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
I'm sure
it
a
just
lot of
reminds me. Yeah, it just
huh?
reminds me with the education system. I saw this interesting meme recently where essentially it shows the education system where all the kids are, sort of, they're basically like, shapes, like some are triangles, some are circles, squares, all that. All the kids essentially go inside this machine and they're all these different, shapes and colors and all of that. And the this machine that they go in with, which is the education system, it has this mold where basically it's like it's just a square, just a white single white square. So they go in with all these different shapes and sizes, and then on the other side, all the kids coming out, they're just in the shape of this square. So it's like, yeah,
Wow.
it's just symbolic of just taking the creativity and individuality of all these kids, and then essentially just trying to mold it into this one size fits all model, which is basically what it conditions us into, because like everyone is given the same model to follow of, yeah, graduate from school, like go and either learn a trade, or go to study or whatever, and all in order to get a 9 to 5 job, work that till you retire, and then yeah, that's life, that's it.
And I was talking about it yesterday. Like, what is like most people when they're so-called retirement time, they're ill or they're sick. They don't even really get to enjoy it. My dad worked the majority of his life, man, and he got cancer 3 times, but I mean, he was like overdoing everything, man, and doing it to the extreme. And I mean, like 17 hours a day working, not taking a lunch, and that's what he was taught, and his parents did, and so it's like, and then to pass away at 75 and not get to enjoy all the fruits of his labor, and that's sad, man. Most people when they get older, they can't really enjoy it. They got physical issues or health issues or whatever. It's BS to me. It's like the stupidest
Hmm.
model. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like when you awaken, you question it big time. And I questioned it when I was a young kid. And I think that's why I never really made it long at jobs, because I couldn't, I couldn't conform to somebody telling me what to do, and bossing me around. And when we're equal, we're all equal. And to be talked that way and talked down upon, and like you're above me and I'm below you, and type of mentality, it's like that's got to change, man. And I feel like when you awaken, you really question that big time. A lot of comes into questioning when you awaken. That's what's so hard, man, especially if you have people around you that aren't awakened, they're unconscious, and you're like, man, this is like really hard, because I don't think like that anymore. It's like, you couldn't just come here to work your ass off and then die. Like, there's no way, man. Like, we came here to experience it, man, all of it. But everyone does. That's why we take it for granted, man. We don't look at it as a miracle. And like nature is a miracle, and we're a miracle, and like this is freaking amazing. But people are so burnt out, man, and in survival mode. And so yeah, I don't know if you want to keep wrap it up, or uh
Yeah, it's probably getting a bit
okay.
late, so
Okay.
yeah, we'll slowly
So
wrap it
but
up.
I'll tell you what, man, this is a great continuation, because I really feel like we have a lot more to say. I think we should definitely continue this kind of where we're going with this, because I know I got a lot more to say. I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, especially
Yeah.
on the topic of, like, self-sustained communities.
Self-sustainability and awakening and all of it. It's a huge topic right now. And yeah, I really and it goes along with the title that we're gonna call the series. So yeah, man, this was awesome. And do you have anything else you want to add, or um
No, I've said my piece for the day,
okay.
and yeah, just
Okay.
hopefully hope you all of you watching, I hope you all got something out of this again. This was another great episode, and yeah, stay tuned for the next one.
Stay
This is
tuned
only
for
going
the
to keep
next
on
one, man.
only going to go up from here. Only
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
keep on
man.
getting better.
We're getting more in tune and like kind of like with our rhythm with each other, and and I feel like it's getting smoother,
Yeah.
and yeah, man, it's only going to go up from here. We got a lot to bring, so stay tuned for a lot to come from the both of us together, because there's a lot more things that we're going to be working on together, and just stay tuned, man. I love you all, and check out. It's going to premiere on Yohan's Odyssey's channel and Wisdom Warriors, and be prepared. Get ready. We'll see you guys soon.